We've covered a lot of ground in this chapter: politics, the state, regimes, the three faces of power, three different conceptions of liberty, and the major political ideologies. In this final section, I want to step back and talk about the discipline itself, what political science is as a field, how it's organized, what methods we actually use, and how all of that is being transformed in the world of 2026. Political science is divided into several major subfields. The first is comparative politics, the study of political institutions and political processes across different countries. If you want to understand why some democracies are stable and others collapse, why some authoritarian regimes liberalize and others don't, you're doing comparative politics. The second subfield is international relations, the study of how states and other global actors interact with one another. Diplomacy, war, trade, international organizations, climate negotiations, that's IR. The third is political theory, sometimes called political philosophy, the normative and conceptual analysis of political ideas. When we read Locke or Marx or Hannah Arendt, we're doing political theory. The fourth is American politics, the study of the U.S. political system, its institutions, and the behavior of its citizens and officials. That's the main focus of this textbook. And the fifth is public policy, the analysis of how governments make decisions and what consequences those decisions actually produce. This course will draw most heavily on American politics and public policy, but we'll bring in comparative and theoretical insights along the way to put the American experience in a wider frame. Now, the methods. Political scientists use a really wide variety of methodological tools. Quantitative methods, including statistical analysis of survey data, voting records, and economic indicators, let us identify patterns and test hypotheses across very large populations. If you want to know whether voter ID laws actually affect turnout, that's a quantitative question. Qualitative methods, case studies, historical analysis, ethnography, let us understand the meaning, the context, and the mechanisms behind political phenomena in greater depth. If you want to understand how a particular protest movement organized itself and what its participants believed they were doing, that's a qualitative question. Formal modeling, drawing on mathematical frameworks from economics and game theory, helps us analyze strategic behavior in situations where actors have conflicting interests. And mixed methods research combines all of these to tackle complex questions that no single approach can fully address. Which brings me to where we are right now in 2026 and the way artificial intelligence is reshaping both the substance and the methods of political science. As subject matter, AI governance has emerged as one of the most consequential policy arenas of the 21st century. The European Union's Artificial Intelligence Act, passed in 2024, introduced a risk-based regulatory framework that has become a global reference point, much the way GDPR did for data privacy a few years earlier. Governments around the world are now wrestling with questions about facial recognition, automated decision making in criminal justice, large language models, and the deployment of autonomous systems. We're going to come back to this throughout the course, especially when we discuss bureaucracy and domestic policy. As a method, AI and machine learning have opened up genuinely new possibilities for political science research. We can now analyze enormous volumes of political text. Every speech in Congress, every campaign ad, every tweet from every candidate in ways that would have been impossible just a decade ago. We can train models that predict electoral outcomes with surprising accuracy. We can map ideological positions in much higher resolution than traditional methods allow. But, and this is a serious but, the same technologies that enable our research are also generating new threats to the very democratic processes we study. The proliferation of AI generated disinformation, deepfake videos that show politicians saying things they never said, automated bot networks that flood social media with coordinated messaging. These have created new challenges for electoral integrity, for media trust, and frankly, for the basic epistemological foundations of democratic deliberation. If citizens can't tell what's real anymore, can democracy actually function? That's a question political scientists are just beginning to systematically address. And it's one of the questions you, as students of this discipline, are going to inherit. So that's the field you're entering. Or even if you're not entering it as a profession, that's the field you're learning to read. Political science is empirical. It's diverse in its methods. It's deeply engaged with the world it studies, not detached from it. And right now, in 2026, it's wrestling with a set of transformations: populism, democratic backsliding, climate change, digital platforms, artificial intelligence that are reshaping politics faster than our existing frameworks can fully keep up with. That's part of what makes this such an interesting time to be doing this work. In this chapter, we've built a vocabulary. We've defined politics, the state, the regime, power, authority, and three different conceptions of liberty. We've surveyed the major ideological traditions and seen how each one is evolving in the conditions of the 21st century. And we've taken a quick look at the discipline of political science itself, its subfields, its methods, and the new challenges it faces. From here, we're going to start applying this vocabulary to the specific case of the United States, beginning in the next chapter with American political culture. I'll see you there.